Hi, I'm Bruce Fritz. I'm here to introduce, in no particular order, writer director Annabelle Attanasio. Star James Badgedale. And last but not least, Camila Morrone. So Annabelle, I know Anaconda, Montana is a real place that you had been to. What made you want to make a film there and about that place, people who live there?
Well, the idea for this began with the idea, I guess, of studying a codependent relationship in the family and specifically looking at a child who had become the parent. And when I began examining that, I also was sort of examining these veterans' families just in pure interest. And I saw a lot of correlation between the two subjects. So at the school I was at, which was NYU Gallatin, I applied for someone amazing. Yes, it's a great school. I applied for a research grant that basically would send me to a small town in Montana with a strong veterans population to conduct research and later craft a narrative film out of that. Got the grant, connected very much with the people in Anaconda, and over the course of 4 years, and now 5, I did just that.
And how did James and Camilla get involved? What made you think of them for the roles? And what was the casting process like for you guys?
There's like no separation now with the characters. They like are these parts. I cast what? Someone laughed. I was like, what? I cast Badge. I had worked for A.V. Kaufman as an intern for years, and though I was an actor, I was really interested in casting too, and every side of the process. So I was really familiar with Badge's work from working in casting and just watching him in movies and stuff like that, and offered him the part, and then he said yes. And then Cammy made this incredible self-tape that I revisited recently that just always struck me. And when the movie was going in June, she came out to Montana to kind of do like a day of workshopping to see how we worked together. Because I already saw so much talent and I guess rawness in her tape, but I wanted to see how we worked together. And it was so much fun. And Cammy has incredible ideas and is very forthright about how she feels. And I knew I had a real partner in her from that experience. And the fact that the two of them work so well together, I think, was just instinct a little bit, but mostly luck.
And what interested you guys in these roles?
That always happens. I didn't prepare to be sitting, actually, so I'll be moving a bunch so I can stay appropriate and classy. That's why my hand's here. What attracted me to this role? When I first read the script, I'm a new actor, so I read a lot of scripts, and I still have to audition for everything. I don't get offers like Badge does. So I read a bunch of scripts, and I dislike a bunch of scripts, and this was one of the scripts that, like, page 50, I automatically texted my agents, and I was like, okay, I'll tape for this. This is a go. And I didn't even finish the script before I did the first self-tape, because I just really wanted to get it in. And I don't know, I think it was the character of Mickey. It was the way that she showed a new world of veterans and opioid crisis that wasn't, just about Hank. It was also about me and about my becoming a young woman and finding my independence. And I think, I was a 17-year-old girl not very long ago. And I know the feeling of wanting to break free. And though my situation wasn't anything like Mickey and Hank's, you're still 17 years old and you're looking forward to the rest of your life. And it just happens to be that Mickey's situation was quite unfortunate, but she's not unlike every other teenage girl in the fact that she wanted more from what she was getting in her life.
Yeah. And Badge, what made you want to play Hank?
Well, I'm not too sure if I wanted to. and that kind of becomes a reason to do something sometimes. I think Annie's a writer. She's a talent beyond her years. There was something in her writing that was, there was an old soul there. There was an understanding of a circumstance, of a relationship that I saw something in, and then I met Annie, and then I saw a short film she did called Frankie Keeps Talking, which Annie wrote, directed, and starred in, and which is very different from this film, but what I saw was a talented filmmaker that I just wanted to work with. And then I saw something in the script that I wanted to work with and play with, and it played into a lot of things. If you've known some of the work I've done over the years, I've worked with a lot of veterans, and I've experienced certain things, and there was personal elements with my friends, my family members, that I felt like I had something to say. And you know, these two wonderful women up here were willing partners, and so we went in it together.
So what was it like being on location in Anaconda? I mean, did the locals welcome you? Were they a little bit suspicious, or did you kind of know them at this point and they trusted you to?
Well, because I had come in 2014 with 3 friends, a DSLR camera, and like a mic and ideas, they were like, who's this kooky young girl? She says she wants to make a movie about Anaconda, but we don't understand. And then I just kind of kept, after that, I got that grant and did that trip. I kept coming back and stayed in very close contact with one person in particular out there whose family has been there for over a century, or his roots trace back that long. So by the time I got there, people were really, like, people so knew what the movie was. And, you know, this was a crew of like 25 people. It was really small. So it's like, we were very, is the word unobtrusive? Mm-hmm. So even with like the fair scene, I guess you guys all just saw the movie. Even with the fair scene, it's like the DP's operating the camera, and we're shooting at a live fair that we've blocked off the street, and everyone's participating and signing waivers, so it's legal. But it's a real fair, so it's like, it's just our camera operator DP and like our focus puller right nearby, and it's like, you know, we didn't really infiltrate in a way that wasn't very delicate and sensitive.
And a lot of the actors were all local hires, which is really cool.
Oh yeah,
because Annie got to incorporate a lot of the local Anacondians. What would you call them? Anacondos? I don't know. Anacondi.
Anaconda. Yeah.
She got to incorporate, like, the gentleman who plays my boss is actually works at a taxidermy store and owns a taxidermy. Yeah. And so she was really inclusive of everyone that lived in Anaconda, and I think it was probably like the highlight of their year.
Yeah. I can't wait for him to see it. Yeah, we used a lot of local actors and fresh faces as well, which I think was a lot of fun for us.
And how many days did you have to shoot the film?
We shot for 25. It was like 25 days, yeah.
And were you able to spend much time together before getting to know each other, or was, especially for you playing father and daughter, did you just kind of have to jump in and go on instinct? Or
we showed up about a week early, you know, which was just enough time. And here's the thing about Cammy. Cammy shows up very well prepared. I mean, if you could compare our 2 scripts, I'm obsessive, but I'm also a wreck. I'm a mess. You can't understand a word I'm writing down.
It's not even like stapled, it's just loose papers. Sorry,
but Cammy is my counterpart. She's just a lot more organized, and we just we bonded in the right way from the right moment, from the get-go, and we opened up, we grabbed onto each other, we trusted each other, and we believed in each other, and we trusted our instincts.
Now that you bring that up, the funny thing about these two that I love so much, and this is why I love being a director, is observing actors amazing and very different processes, is like Cammy comes in with the Staples binder and 8 different highlighter colors and little tabs, and she has like highlighted the entire thing and annotated.
I have to color coordinate all the scenes.
Meanwhile, I remember we had wrapped and Badge had left his script behind, but I didn't know. I remember someone on our crew brought this pile of like disparate papers with just lines through it, and he was like, Annie, do you know whose script this is? And I was like, that's gotta, there's only one person whose script this would be. And it's like, they both have such incredible processes, but it just goes to show, like, I think everybody's creativity lies in different forms. And I don't know. I thought it was very funny.
Yeah. And were you able to do much research into the opioid crisis or veterans issues or taxidermy? I mean, this film touches on so many disparate subjects. I mean, did you have time to kind of dive into that?
Yeah. Well, part of what took so long is I really wanted to honor people in this situation in real life. And so I spent a lot of time talking to people and talking to young girls who have challenging dynamics with their parents, and specifically in Montana. And I think something I love so much about writing is drawing and collecting things from real life. So I definitely use a lot of observation and gleaning of real things in order to make the work feel true.
And how did you come up with the looks of the characters? I mean, both the actors and you, in terms of designing their costumes and also just their physical appearance with the tattoos and the big beard, and I see you still have your head shaved, but I don't know.
That
if
just
it's
happened
normal.
a few days ago.
Oh yeah,
Like
I
yesterday
timed
morning.
it wrong. It's a little cold.
That's true. That's true. What were you kind of going for in terms of evoking the characters with their appearances?
I wanted Mickey to be, I think, the opposite of how people see me in the real world, and I think it was just a lot about not being anything other than Mickey herself. I didn't want the clothes to be distracting, or I think Annie and I agreed that that should just be like the least of her concerns. That's just so not where Mickey's head is at. So I think it was really important to just kind of keep everything about her laid back, tomboyish. I mean, what she wears in the first scene is her pajamas are crazy that she wears to school. And I think that's just Mickey. I think she just doesn't care. That's like, she's got such bigger problems and things to focus on. And I think keeping the makeup and all that was just because, I'm a 17-year-old girl in Anaconda. That's not what the other girls in school, that's what the other girls in school were doing. And I don't think Mickey would be very glamorous in her senior class.
And what about you, Badge? Did you have a lot of input into how your character was going to look, or?
Yeah. I mean, Annie let me run with a lot of things. How representative they are about certain things. Sometimes you go into things and you try this out and you try this out and you try this out, but this just feels right, and I think that's part of what we do is we're all filters, and you have to trust this instinct. So when we found something that just felt right, we just lean into it and we'd go with that.
And it's such a beautifully spare script. There's not a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of details. Did you kind of fill in the blanks for yourself in terms of creating backstories for your characters, or did you just go strictly by kind of what was in the script?
Everybody works different. You know what I mean? I'm someone that when I read something, I try to personalize things. You know what I mean? Okay, maybe I'm not in that circumstance, but can I relate to that in some sort of level? And when I find that little hook in, it's the same way about like you trust your instincts and you run with that, you go into that. You fill this up, but then when you show up, it's just about this, And so when we sat down and we filmed, it was just Cammy and I. And for us, it was about this relationship. And Annie was a huge part of that. I mean, the truth of it is it's not just Cammy and I. It was Annie, myself, and Cammy. We kind of formed this little family. And we would do this all together.
What about you, Cammy? Was one of your color-coded tabs for the character's backstory? Or?
As you can see, I'm a little OCD. I actually, with this character, more so than anything else I've ever played, needed to do a little bit more backstory. So I'm lucky I work with a really great acting coach, and we kind of talked about what Mickey and Hank's relationship was like before this. What was it like when my mother died? How was he there for me? How wasn't he there for me? And I just needed that as a little bit of fuel to kind of understand, was he always an addict? Did this just happen recently? And so I started to do a little bit of backstory, which I've actually never done because I can usually just go into the moment and not have to think about everything. But this is a different character than anything I've ever played. And I really wanted to do Mickey justice and Annabelle's writing and, a sensitive subject like what the movie's about. So I did a little more backstory, and Badge and I kind of spoke about, how did the mom die? What was that looking like? And I think that's a big part of their dynamic. And, maybe Mickey's resentment towards him for not being there, and whatever it is. I mean, they're all personal choices as an actor. There's nothing right or wrong. but I definitely needed a little more of what happened before this moment in Mickey's life that we're showing.
And Annabelle, had you kind of fill in those blanks for yourself, and did they match up with what the actors did, or does that matter really once you start shooting?
Well, that's what's interesting too, is I think for me, it has to feel personal to the actors, and that's what's most important. I certainly have my own ideas about every single backstory, but what's most important is that they feel like they have what they need. So I think I was there for them as much as they needed me to be. But then I'm also not that director that's going to come in and give them like a fact sheet and say you have to abide by this, because I just don't think that that's productive. With Calvin, who plays Wyatt, the character was not British when I wrote it, like not even close. And so when I, even just seeing his picture and I think hearing like 2 seconds of his voice, I think I knew I wanted to cast him. And so, and I knew I wasn't going to make him do an American accent. Because I wanted him to just bring his authentic self, because I just loved everything he had to offer. So we just rewrote the character and spoke almost every week up until the movie, just about the backstory and the scenes and stuff like that, because that was like a complete reworking.
For each of you, what was your biggest challenge in making this movie? Was there a day that, you sort of marked like, oh, this is going to be my toughest kind of day to get through for some reason, or scene that's going to be my biggest, hurdle to overcome?
Did you say my name?
All three of you, yeah.
Oh. My leg is twitching from holding it so tightly. I keep checking if anyone's noticing how hard my leg is twitching right now. What was the question?
What was the biggest challenge for you? Was there one day that you were kind of,
Yeah, there were a
anticipating?
couple. I think it's actually surprising. You read a script and you're so terrified because you're like, this day is going to be brutal and I hope it never comes. and then I weirdly got stuck on things that I thought were really easy, and scenes that I was like, oh, I just have a scene after lunch. And then I would be like, why can't I get this scene? I don't know why I can't nail this. And it's interesting. You surprise yourself what you think is going to be really difficult and what isn't. But definitely, I think the last ending shots they happened to be at the end of the film. James has a clean shave, so that was timed out perfectly. But I think that was our last day of shooting. Mm-hmm. That was our last scene we shot. So there was definitely a little bit of pressure on that to really master that and to end the movie on a good note and to really make this scene what it was.
It's difficult subject matter, but we showed up every day and we tried to keep things light. We tried to keep things fun. We tried to keep things with this hope that we're going to work it out every scene. And what you find is the circumstances, the writing doesn't change. The end story is going to be hard. So it's just kind of like we kept it light, kept in this world of like, oh man, it's just not working. But on that last day, I just remember sitting in the trailer. I was like, oh man, this story is so dark. And it was like this darkness, and we had to like push through this, but you don't get to do that on a film a lot. You don't get to work things, because the great thing about film is that there's a beginning and there's a middle and there's an end, and you all drive towards that end. And to have a film where everyone is so invested in it, the entire crew, the grip and electric department, everybody, we're all invested into this one moment. We actually got to board it so that the end is the last day. Mm-hmm. I've never experienced that, and it was a really special moment, I think, for all of us.
And Annabelle, this is your first feature. What was the biggest challenge for you, stepping behind the camera full time, having been an actor and having made short films and things like that before?
Oh God, there's so many things. I think it's like a marathon. So it's just like staying for 5 weeks, and then before that there's 4 weeks of prep, and before that I was in Montana anyways, just agonizing, and like that's my natural state anyways. So it's just, and I'm not cannot relax. Like it's just every moment I'm like looking at the schedule and giving estimates on time and rehashing the shot list and texting the actors saying, do you need anything? And like, just, I love it so much, but I think just the endurance to keep going in general was really something I'd never experienced before. And as exhilarating and amazing as it is very taxing. I would say a challenging, I don't know, it was like Cammy, like the scenes that I thought were going to be brutal, like the beefaroni scene where Hank throws, the thing I was like so nervous for, and we really prepped for it. I was like, am I going to be able to pull this off? And I wanted we actually have it all in a wide, which is like such an eye roll kind of thing that, we have to get it all in wide. But we did. And that scene wound up being like really easy. And like the scene with the circular dolly wound up being really easy because I was like really we really put a lot of emphasis on them. And it was scenes like, I don't know right now, but the scenes that you kind of think these are one-offs are the ones that are much more challenging.
So since each of you are actors, and they're all actors here in the audience, I'm curious about your backgrounds. When did each of you know that you wanted to get into acting? I mean, you all come from showbiz families of one sort or another, but were your families supportive or less supportive because they had been in the industry themselves and knew what it was like?
I grew up with a mom and dad who are both from Argentina, and they moved out here a couple months before I was born to be actors. And my mom was 21 when she had me, and she had this big dream of, moving to Hollywood and becoming an actress. And I'm born and raised in LA, so I mean, I've seen a lot of actors in my life. and to be honest, I grew up in a household where it was a struggle. Being an actor is a struggle, and raising a kid is a struggle, and I didn't see a very glamorous side of Hollywood until I got much older and started to meet actors and be around actors. But I initially just saw my parents struggling to get a job. And so I was very turned off by it. And even though I knew I wanted to be an actor because I was in every school play I could get offered and I just loved being the center of attention, I was terrified of it. I saw how much pain my parents were going through and how much struggle. And my mom was in speech class and acting class and dialect class and movement class and like just so many years of hard work, and it just wasn't paying off. And there was no explanation for it other than it's just a difficult craft. And so it took me a couple of years to shake off their fears and just say, okay, I know it's going to be difficult and I'm going to go for it. But I do feel lucky that I didn't go into it with some sort of glamorized Hollywood money fame idea, and I saw the truth behind, what it is really like to be a struggling actor.
How about you, Badge?
Both my parents were actors also, and they were blue collar actors. They worked hard and they earned it through hard work and persistence. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't want to be an actor for a long time. And then I saw, and I've said this before publicly, so I'm sorry I repeat myself, but it is the truth. I saw Judith Light do Wit in 1999 at the Union Square Theater. And I grieved my mother's death properly for the first time in that theater. And then I was like, okay, you know what? There's honor to this. You know what I mean? There's honor to this. It's the same thing as bricklaying. You're building something for other people. It's not so much for yourself. And I think I owe it to that one night in a theater. That was it. It was Judith.
Yeah. And Annabelle.
This is getting emotional.
Sorry, we got a little deep.
And Annabelle,
Yeah,
you're
both
sort
of
of following in
those.
your family's footsteps too now and becoming a writer and director too, right? I mean, how did you kind of navigate that path from acting then to?
I'm sorry. I'm so moved.
Yeah,
I'm so moved by that. I'm very familiar with. Anyway, I'm very moved by them. Well, oh God, got emotional. Okay, what? So. Well, I don't know. I always was interested in storytelling, and I've always been interested in like crafting narratives and whatnot. And I always just sort of latched on to being an actress, I think, because that is, I don't know. I just didn't see a lot of women in directing ever growing up, even growing up with my parents doing film and being in TV and whatnot. It was like really rare that you saw a young woman particularly in charge. But over the course of working, I went to college out here not for acting, and I worked professionally as an actor for a couple of years. But I don't know. I think... sorry, it's the parents thing. That's what you want to talk about.
Well, not entirely. Just how you made the decision to become a writer and director. But also, I'm just curious if your parents were
I will say
encouraging or
this will get me verklempt. My dad is I remember he read like one of my, like a one act I wrote when I was maybe 20 or something like that. And I was like, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. And he read it and he was like, you have a real ear and you have a real knack for this, genuinely. And I'd never had praise from him like that in my life. Like I never had that like, son, you know, you got that, like you're going to be a chip off the old block. But he really saw me as that with writing. And I can't explain the depth of meaning that still holds to me, that my dad tells me that, you know, that he sees my value as a writer because I look up to him so much. Yeah. And I don't know, I would say that his presence in my life and like having him see me at South by and cheer me on is like the best gift ever. So I feel tremendously lucky. And, you know, it's really hard to do all of this without someone in your corner. And I have a whole collection of amazing guardian angels in my life who are in my corner who kind of have cheered me on. And I think that's really essential. But you know, my dad is definitely, yeah, he's that.
Yeah, I think you made him proud.
Thanks.
We're almost out of time, but one question I always ask people here at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is, what's the best piece of advice that you've gotten from another actor that you can now pass along to these actors? If anyone wants to jump in, if anything springs to mind.
Mine's not from an actor, but it's from my therapist.
That's just as good.
I know if there's actors in the room, we go to therapy, so we know what that's like. And I was just like, why am I not getting the roles I want? I'm working so hard and I'm auditioning and I'm not booking anything. And he's like, Cammy, think of yourself in a soccer field. You're kicking the ball. It's not going in the goal, but eventually it's going to get in the goal. I was like, he said, you keep hitting the post, but eventually one will go in. And I guess that was my Mickey and the Bear. That was
I think you scored a goal. How about you, Badge? You've worked with so many great actors over the years. Have you have any bits of wisdom you can share?
Oh, I when I was younger, I was way too intense. Like I'm in character all day long, like lunch, and like people don't want to talk to me. And it was Stephen Bauer pulled me aside one day, and he just went, "That is unsustainable. Like you just can't do a 12 to 14 hour day like that every day. You have to learn to relax yeah, that's stuck with me. So I try to have fun now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Annabelle, you're young, but you're an old soul. Do you have a bit of wisdom you can share with us?
Well, this is cliche, but I will tell all the actors in the room to start writing. It's the best thing that you can do to feel in control of your life and to tell the stories that you deserve to be telling and maybe that you'll act into. It really, when I was acting, it really was so empowering to me. And actors generally make fantastic writers because they're constantly doing terrible sides for auditions and reading you've read a lot of the great playwrights. And so you have such an amazing, I guess, frame of reference for what your taste is. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Well, it's a beautiful movie, and it's opening at Film Forum tomorrow, which I'm glad people will be able to see it on a big screen. So spread the word. Mickey and the Bear, thank you for joining us. Annabelle Attanasio, James Badge Dale, and Camila Morrone.
Thank you.